The afternoon sun filtered gently through the tall trees lining Riverside Plaza, its light breaking into soft ribbons as it slipped between leaves and branches. Shadows danced across the wide concrete steps where office workers usually ate their lunches, tapping at phones or staring into middle distance before returning to meetings that never seemed to end. Daniel Morrison sat halfway up those steps with his daughter Lily beside him, their knees touching as they shared a turkey sandwich wrapped in brown paper. The paper was creased and slightly translucent where the mustard had soaked through. Daniel wore his usual gray hoodie, the fabric softened by years of washing, layered over a faded T-shirt. His dark hair was slightly mussed from the morning breeze, and faint lines at the corners of his eyes told quiet stories of laughter and loss. These lunches were their tradition. Every Wednesday, without fail, Daniel timed his custodial shift, so he could meet Lily after a half day at school. They didn't go anywhere fancy. Sometimes they sat on these steps, sometimes on a bench near the fountain, once even on the curb when everything else was full. It didn't matter. What mattered was that they were together. Lily swung her legs gently, humming between bites as she talked excitedly about her art class. She described the way her teacher had let them mix colors freely instead of following instructions, how blue and yellow had surprised her by becoming green. And Daddy, she said around a mouthful of sandwich, Miss Carter said my painting looked like happiness. Daniel smiled that slow, proud smile reserved only for moments like this. I knew it would. He was about to take another bite when something else caught his attention. 3 steps below them sat a young girl, maybe 9 or 10 years old. She had long brown hair pulled neatly back and wore a school uniform that looked freshly pressed. Her shoes were spotless. An expensive backpack rested beside her leg, its zipper lined with a tiny gold charm. But her posture told a different story. Her shoulders curved inward, as though she were trying to fold herself smaller. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers twisting together slowly. She stared straight ahead, eyes unfocused, as people passed without noticing her at all. Daniel felt a familiar ache settle in his chest. "Daddy," Lily whispered, tugging gently at his sleeve. That girl looked sad. Daniel followed her gaze again, confirming what his heart already knew. Over his 43 years, he'd learned that loneliness wasn't always loud. Sometimes it sat quietly in clean clothes, surrounded by expensive things, hoping no one noticed how much it hurt. He unwrapped the second half of the sandwich, the half he'd been saving for his dinner break. "Excuse me," he said softly, leaning forward so his voice wouldn't startle her. "Are you okay?" The girl looked up sharply, as though pulled from a deep place. Her eyes were red-rimmed, lashes clumped slightly like she'd wiped away tears more than once. "I'm fine," she said quickly. Daniel gave her a gentle look, the kind that didn't argue. "You don't look fine, honey. When's the last time you ate something?" She hesitated, then shrugged, her gaze sliding away. "My mom's supposed to pick me up. She's in a meeting." Daniel glanced at his watch. It was almost 2 o'clock. "How long have you been waiting?" he asked. "Since school let out at noon." Something in Daniel tightened. He didn't comment on it. He didn't sigh or shake his head. He simply stood and walked down to her step, holding out half the sandwich. "Here," he said. "You can't think straight on an empty stomach. My mother used to tell me that." The girl stared at the sandwich as if it were something fragile, something she wasn't sure she was allowed to touch. "I can't take your lunch," she said quietly. "I already ate my half," Daniel replied easily. This was extra. It wasn't true, but it was kind. And Daniel had learned long ago that facts and truth were not always the same thing. Lily scooted down to sit beside them, her presence bright and unguarded. "It's really good," she said cheerfully. "Daddy makes the best sandwiches. He cuts them diagonal because it tastes better that way." The girl's lip trembled. Slowly, carefully, she accepted the sandwich with both hands. "Thank you," she whispered. "I'm Daniel," he said. "This is my daughter, Lily. What's your name?" "Sophie." They sat together on those sun-warmed steps. 3 people who had been strangers moments earlier. Sophie ate slowly, savoring each bite as though the sandwich carried more than just food. Daniel didn't ask questions. He'd learned that lonely people didn't need interrogation. They needed presence. My mom works a lot, Sophie said finally, her voice barely above the hum of the city. She's important. She runs a big company. I'm sure she is, Daniel said carefully. But you know what? You're important, too. Sophie looked at it with eyes too old for her young face. She forgets sometimes, she said. Not on purpose. She just forgets. Daniel felt a familiar weight press against his ribs, the one that had lived there since his wife passed 5 years earlier. The weight of trying to be enough, of knowing you sometimes fell short. Being a parent is the hardest job in the world, he said softly. We mess up, all of us, but that doesn't mean we don't love with everything we have. Behind them, unnoticed, a woman stood frozen at the edge of the plaza. Catherine Reynolds wore her signature white blazer over a lavender blouse, her brown leather bag clutched tightly in one hand. Her chest rose and fell too quickly, heart still pounding from the run down the street. Her phone buzzed in her other hand. Security alerts, missed calls, messages from the school asking where she was. And there, on public steps, sat her daughter, eating a sandwich from a stranger, because her mother had lost track of time during a merger negotiation. Catherine's first instinct was panic, to rush forward, to apologize, to explain. But something stopped her. Sophie was smiling, actually smiling. She was talking animatedly, laughing softly at something Lily had said. Catherine felt something twist painfully inside her. Your daddy seems really nice, Sophie said to Lily. He is, Lily replied proudly. He's the best daddy in the world. Sometimes we have picnics for dinner in our living room because he says happiness doesn't need a fancy restaurant. Daniel looked up then and caught sight of Catherine standing there, her hand pressed to her throat. Their eyes met, and in that moment he saw everything written across her face, the guilt, the fear, the exhaustion of trying to hold too much at once. He stood slowly. Sophie, he said gently, I think someone's here for you. Sophie turned. Mom. Catherine walked forward on unsteady legs, her heels clicking sharply against the concrete. Sophie, sweetheart, I'm so sorry, she said. I got caught in a meeting. I lost track of time. It's okay, Mom, Sophie said quietly, practice of forgiveness. But it wasn't okay. And Catherine knew it. She looked at Daniel, the stranger in a worn gray hoodie, who had done what she hadn't. Thank you for staying with her, Catherine said. I don't know how to. No need, Daniel replied simply. Anyone would have done the same. They both knew that wasn't true. People had been walking past Sophie for 2 hours. Catherine knelt down in front of Sophie, not caring that her expensive slacks pressed against dusty concrete. The city noise faded as she see her. Time, noticing the faint redness around her eyes, the way her shoulders were still slightly hunched as if bracing for disappointment. Sophie, she said, her voice trembling despite her effort to stay composed. I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry. You deserve better than this. Sophie swallowed, her fingers tightening around the edge of her backpack. You always say you're sorry. The words landed between them like a bell that couldn't be unrung. Catherine felt them strike her chest, sharp and undeniable. She'd offered apologies so many times that they had begun to lose their weight, their power. And seeing that realization reflected in her daughter's eyes hurt more than any boardroom loss ever could. You're right, Catherine whispered. I do, and I need to do better than sorry. Behind her, Daniel rested a hand on Lily's shoulder. Come on, sweetheart, he murmured. We should give them a moment. But Catherine looked up quickly. Please wait. She stood and reached into her bag, pulling out her wallet with hands that still shook. Let me give you something, for the sandwich, for your time. No, ma'am, Daniel said gently but firmly. That's not why people help people. Catherine froze, the wallet half open. In that moment, she saw something she'd almost forgotten existed. Simple human decency, given freely, expecting nothing in return. Then let me buy you lunch, she said after a beat. All of you. There's a cafe around the corner. Please, I'd like to thank you properly. And maybe Sophie would like to spend a little more time with her new friends. Sophie looked up, hope flickering across her face. Can we, Mom? Please. Daniel met Catherine's eyes. Beneath her polished exterior, he saw exhaustion, but also something else. A woman standing at a crossroads, unsure which way led back to what mattered. "Lunch sounds nice," he said. They walked the 3 blocks to the cafe together, Sophie holding her mother's hand on one side and chatting happily with Lily on the other. Their voices overlapped, laughter bubbling up in easy bursts. Behind them, Catherine and Daniel fell into step. 2 adults watching their children navigate the fragile beginnings of friendship. "I'm Catherine Reynolds," she said quietly. "I run Meridian Technologies." "Daniel Morrison," he replied without hesitation. "I'm a custodian at the Fletcher Building downtown." She glanced at him, surprised. Most people added explanations or apologies when they spoke of work like that. Daniel didn't. "How long have you been there?" she asked. 5 years, he said. "Since my wife died. I needed steady hours so I could raise Lily." "I'm sorry," Catherine said softly. "Thank you." He paused, then added gently, "And I'm sorry about whatever's pulling you in so many directions you couldn't get to your daughter on time." Tears pricked Catherine's eyes. No accusation, no judgment, just understanding. "It's not an excuse," she said. "No," Daniel agreed, "but it's a reason. There's a difference." Over sandwiches and warm bowls of soup, the 4 of them talked. Sophie told her mother about school. Really told her, not just the rushed summaries Catherine usually heard between calls. Lily shared stories about weekend picnics and library trips and nights when cereal counted as dinner. Catherine felt herself relax in a way she hadn't in years. When the girls wandered off to examine the cafe's small fish tank, Catherine leaned forward. "How do you do it?" she asked. "Balance everything?" Daniel smiled faintly. "I don't balance it. I choose it. Every day I choose Lily. Some days the house is a mess. Some days we eat cereal for dinner. But she never doubts that she comes first." "I've been choosing wrong," Catherine whispered. "You've been choosing what you thought you had to," he said. "That's different." He stirred his coffee thoughtfully. "My wife used to say success isn't measured by what we build. It's measured by who we love, and who loves us back." Took losing her to understand that. Catherine watched Sophie and Lily, their faces press a glass, fingers pointing excitedly. "I've been building an empire," Catherine said, "and losing my daughter." "Then stop building for a while," Daniel replied, "or build different things. Children don't need empires. They need presence." The truth settled into her bones. That evening, Catherine canceled her conference calls. She turned off her phone. She sat on the floor of Sophie's room and listened, really listened, as her daughter talked about everything and nothing at all. The next day, she found Daniel's number through the building management office. "I wanted to thank you again," she said when he answered, "and maybe ask if Lily and Sophie could have a play date sometime." "That would be nice," Daniel replied. "Lily would like that." "I also wanted you to know," Catherine added softly, "I went home early today. First time in 6 months. Sophie and I made dinner together. Pasta from a box, sauce from a jar." "That's good," Daniel said warmly. "Really good." The play dates became regular. Saturdays at the park. Sunday afternoon movies. Simple things that cost little but meant everything. Over time, Catherine and Daniel became friends. He taught her the power of presence. She reminded him it was okay to want more than survival. 6 months later, they sat together on those same plaza steps as their daughters played tag nearby. "I changed my schedule," Catherine said. "I'm home by 5:30 now." The board wasn't happy, but they adjusted. "How does it feel? Like I can breathe again." She turned to him. "Thank you. For that day. For the sandwich. For the truth." "You did the work," Daniel said. I just pointed. Their hands rested inches apart. Daniel moved his pinky slightly closer, a question without words. Catherine linked hers with his. "This might be complicated," she said. "Most good things are," he replied. "Everything else is just noise." Above them, the sun continued its slow journey. Around them, the city rushed on. But on those steps, for lives had changed, simply because someone chose to see, to care, and to show up. And sometimes that is more than enough. V.